Welcome to the Final Four. We have finally reached the pinnacle of college basketball. It's 6th seeded West Virginia against the number 5 seed BYU. So glad to join you here from San Antonio along with Mike Abelson. I'm Alex Perlman, and Mike, both of these teams have more than earned their way into this spot. For BYU, the senior out of Bountiful, Utah, Zach Seljaas, has been outstanding, shooting 41% from three behind in the tourney, and this is exactly what you would expect to see from the Cougars. But West Virginia, a very, very scrappy, great rebounding team.
Yeah, I mean, two teams that play very different types of basketball, but two teams that have found ways to get massive wins throughout this tournament. And of course, with West Virginia, coached by Huggy Bear, a man who knows how to win big games, yet still chasing his first national title.
Bob Huggins, 885 wins, the 6th most in Division I history. We are ready to go here in San Antonio. Tip 1 by West Virginia wearing the gold, and we are underway at the Alamo Dome.
Tell you, it's a fun color matchup here. The navy of the Cougars and that pretty gold and blue of the Mountaineers.
First effort, nothing on the shot attempt, but a foul coming up on Dalton Nixon, the senior out of Orem, Utah. And it's Oscar Tshiebwe, a very talented freshman. Originally hails from the Democratic Republic of Congo, member of the All-Big 12 second team in his first year in Morgantown.
The Reddit Premium Free Throw Cam in the first half is brought to you by Coca-Cola C2, break free. And Alex, to your point about Tshiebwe, you know, it just goes to show that, you know, talent comes at all ages. Just a first year. Oh, goodness, an awful turnover right out the gate by the Cougars. But Tshiebwe has been dominant on both ends of the court throughout this tournament.
Tshiebwe, the second McDonald's All-American to commit to West Virginia as a freshman. The other, Chris Brooks, in 1986. But, you know, you just alluded to it, Mike. 20 points, 10 rebounds. How about averaging 5 steals per game as well in the tournament? Great look down low to Jermaine Haley, senior out of Vancouver, with the first bucket of the game now for West Virginia, an early 4-0 lead.
Great start by the Mountaineers. Of course, what happens when those long jump shots start falling? Because we know they will for BYU. They may not for the first minute or two, but they will fall.
Yeah, shooting 42% this year from three. That's the best in the country. And this is a team that can just absolutely fill it up. Nice take that time. Childs is going to pick up the foul. Childs, remember, the first team All-West Coast Conference, and it's Derek Culver who has asserted himself down low in this tournament at the free throw stripe.
Culver, a guy who West Virginia will need big games from this weekend here in San Antonio. You know, we talk about Tshiebwe, but Culver, you know, 6'10" sophomore from Youngstown, Ohio, definitely someone that Huggins has relied on the last 2 years. He has to produce just as much as Tshiebwe and the guards.
Culver was a perfect 7 of 7 from the field in the Elite Eight win over LSU. Good performance by the Mountaineers, winning by 10 over the Tigers. And for the Cougars, they were able to take down a number 3 Kentucky in the Elite Eight. A thrilling 96-86 win. And for BYU, knocking off Kansas and Kentucky, 2 Blue Bloods in 2 straight games in the regional semi and final.
And for BYU, their first ever Final Four appearance marks the 3rd time in the last 4 years we've had a first-time Final Four participant, with Texas Tech last season and the Sindarius Thornwell South Carolina team in 2017.
How about the job, Mike, that Mark Pope has done this year? 28 wins on the season in his first year in Provo. That's just a little bit short. Offensive rebound, and there's the putback for Dalton Nixon.
And Cougars have to find a way to get on the board. You know, we talk about the shooters, but Nixon and Childs can really do some quality work underneath, as we saw right there.
Man drawn in the air. Now it's Tshiebwe back over to Culver, and they'll reset the offense with Miles McBride. Very talented freshman out of Cincinnati, member of the Big 12 all-freshman team. There's Sean McNeil spotting up in and out on his first shot attempt. You know, we mentioned with Mark Pope as well, he is just the 10th coach since 1990 to get to the Final Four in his first 5 years as a head coach. Was previously at Utah Valley for 4 seasons, first year with BYU, and he already has them as one of the last 4 teams standing.
Yeah, as you said, it really has been a remarkable year for the Cougars.
Long two, not this time for West Virginia. There's Culver, and he'll go to the free throw line for one more. Childs picking up his second early, and we saw this a couple of games ago for BYU. Yoli Childs was not able to stay on the floor with 2 early fouls, and this is kind of the exact same story.
The Reddit virtual tournament is brought to you by Walden Books. America finds it at Walden Books.
It's a shame we can't see more of that. Bookstores. Big fan, just not the most lucrative industry these days.
You reading anything good right now?
I am. I'm actually reading The Kite Runner for the first time.
Oh, always a good choice.
Jake Toolson off the bounce.
I'm reading a book about the history of the confectionery industry in Boston.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, like, the Confederate Army. I know you're a little bit of a history buff.
Well, it is history. Candy history.
Monster attempt by Culver goes begging, but the foul on Colby Lee puts Culver at the free throw line.
One thing to say real quick, just 3:12 into this game, already 14 fouls on BYU. If they're not careful, West Virginia could really cause some damage at the stripe later in the half.
Yeah, that has definitely been an issue, but also the Mountaineers are going to have to make them pay at some point. West Virginia just a 64% free throw shooting team. And it really is a testament to the team type of game that they play, because they don't really do anything except rebound extremely well. They're not a good three-point shooting team. Obviously, BYU, very different story as TJ Hawes is on the board. 18% for the Mountaineers in this tournament, 28% this year from beyond the arc. That is not the MO by any means.
Yeah, they want to grind you down and just drag you down on the inside, whereas BYU, they play a little more splash and dash, razzle-dazzle from deep.
And when you have TJ Hawes orchestrating the offense, that is what you see a lot. No on the 3 from McNeil, the sophomore out of Union, Kentucky, transferring in from Sinclair Community College. He is their best three-point shooter, but again, only 33% on the year. He's made a team-high 29 threes. That would not be a team high for many programs when you talk about Division I basketball. Toolson from beyond.
You talked about TJ Hawes. What about Toolson? What about Celius? The moment you shade over on one, another one's going to get you. Cougars up 3.
Talk about that depth as well from beyond the arc for BYU. 6 players shooting 37% or better. And that includes Hawes, Toolson, Celius just below at 36% on the season. But he's 41% from beyond the arc in this tournament, so playing his best basketball late in the year. Haley backing down. Around the perimeter it goes, and now just 12 to shoot for West Virginia. Easy look inside was denied by Colby Lee.
Yeah, Culver turned the wrong way. Just a very strange mistake.
It looked like he had the open layup, but Lee was not obliging by any means. Now Hawes. Celius with the fake. BYU, a very experienced team as well. 4 of their 5 starters usually are seniors, and they're even more when you come off of the bench. They've also got a 5th-year guy in Luke Worthington who somehow is still in uniform. We'll see if he gets any action here for the Cougars. Shibwe, couple of pumps, and the easy deuce.
Just what the doctor ordered.
But a quick effort back the other way for BYU, and Culver picks up his first foul.
Stop on by to Chom Burger and chomp on down. With some of the best sandwiches in Utah, Chom has every type of sandwich to satisfy from meat to chicken to veggie. Stop in, grub up, and have fun at Chom Burger.
And we can finally dig into some sandwiches now, Mike.
Hey, I mean, if they want to send a care package, I'm not going to say no to sandwiches. Any of the sandwiches. Veggie, cold cut, burger, even those weird sushi burritos. Bring them on.
What about hot dog?
I mean, I like hot dogs. I just got to be in the right mood for a hot dog.
But do we count them as a sandwich? That's the biggest question.
Okay, you're going to put me on the spot again. Yes, a hot dog is a sandwich, but I would never give it to someone if they ask for a sandwich.
Incorrect. Incorrect in all respects.
Incorrect? Incorrect? It's who died and made you the Lord Mayor of sandwiches?
Obviously, I think I was self-appointed. Not a sandwich to me, at least. Flip it up and in. West Virginia back the other way. Sean McNeil will get one more.
Substitution on the court.
Maybe I won't share the sandwich platter with you when I get it.
What if it comes to me first? And there is a big issue potentially for West Virginia. We just saw an injury for Shibwe, their leading scorer and rebounder, something that we will keep our eyes on throughout the rest of this ball game.
I will say it must be nice to have a guy like Logan Rout be able to come off the bench, and an exceptionally talented senior. So you also have the veteran experience with Rout on the ball right now.
And Rout, one of just two players who contribute on this team from the state of West Virginia, as he is involved in the dime right there.
Great feed, great finish. I'm still not sharing the sandwiches with you.
How about 6'11 to 6'10 on that last bucket, and West Virginia by 2. 13-10 to go before the break. Wide open three. West Virginia got away with that one as Rout rips down his first board. McBride in transition to Haley for the bucket.
You talk about Rout being from West Virginia, Haley all the way from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. You know, West Virginia casts its recruiting net far and wide.
Yeah, he certainly had an interesting path from Vancouver to Odessa College in Texas. Think Friday Night Lights, that Permian Basin area, and making his way to Morgantown in the Appalachians. And now we'll have a foul and free throws coming up for Kobe Lee, who's a 71% shooter from the stripe.
Hey, Alex, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? Why, it's the Impractical Jokers. Catch them 23 hours a day, only on True TV.
Yeah, they definitely dominate the programming schedule, don't they?
Someone told me that I was passing too much shade on the Carbonaro effect, but I think I'm right.
Oh, what a lay-in! McBride behind the back.
Haley helping, Haley finishing. Mountaineers maintaining that lead here in the first half.
The freshman's first bucket gives a 4-point advantage to the Mountaineers, but Toulson can't answer. We have seen some early three attempts and some wide open ones at that missed by BYU. Great feed to Rout.
What a dangerous pass, a behind-the-back bouncer to a cutting route, but Culver had the faith that his teammate would be there. Oh, boy.
Excellent news now for West Virginia with Shibwe checking back in, so the injury does not seem to be serious. Coming off of a game-high 19 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals in that win over LSU.
The question, though, will be, can he go full 100%? Let's watch how he performs the rest of this first half.
Culver at the elbow, passes it up, another long two. Neal has not really been close. He has one layup, but every other shot attempt off the mark.
And, we talk about West Virginia rebounding, but they're not doing a good job of getting guys in the paint.
Hawes to set up the offense, working on Culver. There's a big mismatch. And what about the hezzy right there by the 6'4 Hawes over the 6'10 Culver?
Hey, only this time of the year do those shots go in, right?
It seems that way.
That shot doesn't go in December.
Everything just a little more amped up, including the fans here in the Alamo Dome. Beautiful look inside, and there's McNeil. Toulson picking up the contact.
And the 6th foul on the Cougars. So Toulson will have to sit. Barcelo checks in. And now the rest of the half, the Mountaineers are going to shoot. They really have to shoot above their average here.
So we haven't seen Yoli Child since the 17-minute mark picking up those early fouls. And now Toulson has to go to the bench at about the 10:45 mark. That's something that we'll keep our eye on, exactly how West Virginia is able to take advantage, or if BYU is able to stay in this game with two of their best players over on the bench next to Mark Pope.
Well, in their Elite Eight game, Childs also dealt with foul trouble, and the Cougars were able to adapt. So they do have experience in this tournament playing without Childs. Of course, this is a much bigger, wider, tougher team in West Virginia.
Well, and it also helps for the Cougars as Hawes puts up the three and hits, that you might have to put Toulson on the bench with the 2 fouls, but then you bring out an Arizona transfer in Alex Barcelo, who had a tremendous season, shooting over 48% from beyond the arc.
Must be nice to have that on the bench, eh?
You could argue that that's why they're in the Final Four, right?
I think that's a good reason. I would accept that.
Certainly has something to do with it. West Virginia by just 2 now. Shibwe putting his team up a deuce. Through the hands there of West Virginia. Stays with Celius. Nixon draws his man in the air. In and out on the 10-footer. So easy there for Shibwe.
Remember earlier when I said about him, us wondering if he would be able to go full speed? I think he's able to go full speed.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way as West Virginia forces the BYU turnover, and Rout is now coming back in.
Second massively unforced turnover by the Cougars. Mark Pope, I'm sure, ready to take the jacket off and get angry. Can't do that.
9 minutes to go now in the first half. Shibwe, couple pumps, get it into the corner. And another miss back on a long J as Lee already has 7 rebounds for the Cougs. There is Barcelo. Got a waiver to play right away after he transferred in from Arizona in Sean Miller's program.
Not a lot of off-ball movement here for these Cougars.
Hawes coming to meet it now with 8 on the shot clock. Finds an open Celius and buries it.
First points of the game for Zach. Who needs off-ball movement when you can just shoot right over everyone?
Averaging 26 points the last 2 games. He is as good a reason as any that BYU is in this spot.
And I hear that most familiar of chants, Alex.
Fire it up, says the crowd. And that'll help as McBride is on the board from beyond the arc. No, Haley checked that after McBride with the assist. Where does the answer come? Not with Hawes. West Virginia basketball, their 3rd ever Final Four, first since 2010. And, of course, we all remember that magical run that the Mountaineers made through the Big East tournament, taking down Georgetown with Deshaun Butler's 3, Sean McDonough's epic call. The Butler did it. And then they got all the way to the Final Four after that.
Goodness, Hawes just crashing into McBride to draw the foul.
And that was the tournament as well. Remember, Butler went down with the injury. I believe it was in the Elite Eight, and was a huge reason that West Virginia got to the Final Four, but not able to advance any further.
Substitution on the court.
3 subs now coming in for Bob Huggins. His 13th year already in Morgantown. Just 5 wins away from number 300 with the Mountaineers.
Just chasing that elusive national championship.
And Mike Hall's already off to a much better start. Remember in the Elite Eight game, or check that was the Sweet 16 game. That was the Elite Eight game against Kentucky. He had 22 points, that is. All of them, though, coming in the second half. He had nothing in the first 20 and then really turned it on, and was a huge reason that the Cougars were able to beat the Wildcats. Nixon. And Shibwe tried to go up straight, and it looked like maybe he did, but he's going to get called for his first foul.
Shooting 2.
Shibwe is going to undergo an NBA evaluation this offseason, but only being a freshman, and Coach Bob Huggins saying he is leaving the option to return. You know, West Virginia fans are hoping he's back for his sophomore year.
It is great that players can do that in the NBA, in college. They have that option, unlike in football.
It absolutely, I think, makes all the difference, because why would you want a player to lose all his college eligibility when he gets some feedback saying, you're not ready, work on this, this, and this in the offseason, and let's see what happens next year.
Exactly. There are so many options, there are so many ways to find success, that the fact that more doors are left open benefits everyone.
Foot on the line, and the jumper goes down. First of the game for Emmett Matthews, who surprisingly didn't see the floor in West Virginia's Elite Eight win over LSU, but he's got his first points there.
Shows just how deep this bench is for the Mountaineers.
I mean, the Mountaineers do go as much as 10 deep at times. Not something that Mark Pope and BYU can really boast too much, but it has been more than enough to get them to this point. And there is another player off the bench for this time BYU, Connor Harding, the sophomore out of Pocatello, Idaho.
Substitution on the court.
And now Shibwe has to sit with 2 fouls.
An excellent first Final Four game here in San Antonio. Coming up next, it's Gonzaga and Seton Hall. That's a 1 seed in Gonzaga versus a 3 seed in the Seton Hall Pirates, led by Miles Powell. Can't wait for that matchup. Should be an outstanding one. And then, of course, the national championship on Monday night.
You ever been to San Antonio?
I have not been to San Antonio, one of the cities I haven't crossed off the list yet.
I've been to Austin. I had a good weekend in Austin, but not San Antonio yet.
I do want to do the Riverwalk at some point. Couple pumps for Matthews. Off the mark. Trevin Nell with the basketball.
Since you're the Lord Mayor of sandwiches, what are your thoughts on Whataburger?
I like Whataburger. I think it's a decent fast food burger. I
could agree with that.
I'll tell you one thing, though, and this might be an unpopular opinion. Better than In-N-Out.
I can agree with that.
In-N-Out, not my favorite. Just doesn't do it for me for some reason. The fries, not outstanding. Hopefully not a sponsor that I don't know about. Another long 2. This one off for Matthews. Offensive rebound, but it's through Rout's hands and back to BYU. Tied at 32 apiece. 4.5 minutes to go here in the first half. And quickly the Cougars back on the board. McCabe picks it up, and it's Lee going to the line.
Substitution on the court.
Yet again, with Toulson and Childs on the bench, the Cougars still finding a way. not only to stay with the Mountaineers, but to take the lead on the Mountaineers.
What have been your early impressions so far, Mike?
It's a good game.
I don't think anybody could argue with that at this point.
I'm assuming you're asking for more opinions.
Just a little bit. Give me a little bit more.
It's been really interesting to watch both teams adapt with stars on the bench due to fouls. Childs, Toulson, and Shibwe all fighting foul trouble. Shibwe dealing with the injury. At this point in the season, everyone's good. Everyone's also tired and hurting in some form or fashion. They've been playing basketball now for 6 months?
Yeah, and
so
luckily BYU does have, a few days off. They have a definitely less of a deep bench than the Mountaineers, so that's definitely helped these kinds of players like Celius there.
I'm sure it'll help them playing the early game tonight. Because we know that late game can really stretch into the night sometimes.
3-point lead for the Cougars. Matthews, who has been really involved in the offense recently, picks up the foul on Celius, just number 1, the 7th on the Cougars here in the first half. And one more to come for the sophomore out of Tacoma, Washington. 1 for 2 on the trip, but there's Rout once again.
The big man with a big plan gets this game tied at 37. A prime shot for a prime number.
Into Matthews' hands. Doing it on the defensive end that time. Feed it ahead to Haley. And he's mauled by Lee, his second foul.
So if Haley had gone up with his left hand, he probably would have gotten the easy layup. And then he chooses to go under and draw the foul. Are you a fan of that play, or should he have tried taking it?
No, I think you take it strong, front side, and, force the contact there. I don't see why you go underneath the rim in that case.
Substitution on the court.
Haley has been a catalyst early, looking for his 9th point. He only had 9 in West Virginia's Elite 8 win over LSU. And he's tied that mark. Full court pressure, but an easy shot for Worthington, who we mentioned out of the state of Wisconsin. Can really come back to hurt you sometimes, Mike, with that full court pressure, but of course, for Bob Huggins, that's what he does, and he's had a lot of success that way.
Well, there's a reason he's taken 2 different schools to Final Fours.
Under 3 minutes now before the intermission in San Antonio. Jermaine Haley starting up the offense into the hands of Matthews. Now it's with McCabe. Just 3 on the shot clock. Wide open. Long 3 won't go.
Still, that's not the Mountaineers' shot. Great job by BYU locking down the perimeter and forcing a really bad shooting team to go over top.
18% again this tournament from beyond the arc for West Virginia. To Hawes in the corner. TJ Hawes, who has already eclipsed the 2,000-point mark in his career.
One of the all-time great Cougars, no matter how you cut it. And he could go down as the all-time great Cougar if they're able to win 2 more games.
One of those is Yoli Childs, who we just have not seen since the 17-minute mark because of 2 early fouls. And I think it's incredible the Cougars are winning this game against a team with such a size and rebounding advantage like West Virginia.
It's a testament to Nixon, Lee, and Worthington.
Yeah, size not a huge problem for BYU, though athleticism, you would say, goes in West Virginia's side, and certainly in their favor. free throws now, and Matthews picks up his first foul.
Shooting 1-1.
Seljaas almost 77% from the stripe this season. Zach Seljaas leading BYU to the upset over top seed Kansas. He had 28 points, coming off a team-high 25 in that Elite Eight win over Kentucky. And this would give the Cougars a 5-point edge.
That's a big difference between these two teams. You don't expect BYU to make free throws a chore the way that West Virginia has been.
The Cougars just turning it on at the right time. And this is arguably their best team in school history. We already mentioned it's their first Final Four, so I guess by definition where they've gotten to this season, you would say it is their best, but talent-wise, I don't know who else in school history matches up to these guys out on the court. I mean, can you imagine being Mark Pope? You get the reins from Dave Rose, who retired last year. They hire his former assistant, current Utah Valley coach Mark Pope, and I mean, he's handed the keys to a Ferrari. Seriously, this team is outstanding, and not a surprise to see them in the Final Four at all with the way that they have played this tournament.
Hey, you know, a lot of coaches have been handed keys to Ferraris. How many have crashed it driving out of the parking lot? You know, Pope has done such a fantastic job of developing this team into something even better than it already was.
And if it's not this year, you know, you'd think when. So many upperclassmen, so many seniors.
Whatever year Luke Worthington is.
We'll call him a fifth year. How about that? 4-point edge now for BYU. 13-second gain to shot clock difference here for the Mountaineers. Tapped out of bounds. Going to stay with them on this end of the floor.
Not enough time to go 2 for 1 here. Unless you get a really quick jump shot, I don't think they'll take it.
Not exactly the way that West Virginia likes to play offensively. Definitely a grind-you-down type of team. Route. Passed up a potential layup opportunity. Short on the three from Culver. And now BYU can hold for final shot. Ball in Hawes' hands.
Big man has a chance to eat. He's got to chomp on down.
Nixon, couple of pump fakes. 4 seconds. Hawes for three. No at the buzzer. And the first half comes to an end. A 4-point lead for BYU in a highly contested first Final Four game of the evening.
Both teams shooting quite well. The rebounds, pretty solid. But, you know, you look at the difference in free throw percentage. And Hawes, the 13. How about Colby Lee, quietly with 7 and 9?
So 20 minutes in the books, and we have 20 more to go to decide who faces the winner of Gonzaga and Seton Hall in the national championship game in a couple of nights. Back for the second half, right after this. So one official can't figure out how to get the basketball to Seljaas to begin things here in the second, and now we finally have it. I guess sometimes you just need to make that important official switch, huh, Mike?
Yeah, sometimes physics breaks in the Lone Star State, I guess.
And a quick start for BYU and Nixon.
You'd think with so much great space and NASA history here in this state, they know how to handle these weird quirks in the physical universe that seem to be appearing in college basketball in 2020.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Maybe if we played this in Houston, like the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 were in one of the regions, we would have been able to figure that one out.
We didn't have any of those problems in Houston, I can tell you that.
Just saying. Cougar ball up 4. Now Worthington, who started the second half. Dump it down low. And an easy bucket after the Worthington dime. 2 points for Harding. Connor Harding with 5 on the game. Right back to BYU, and Nixon's going to the stripe.
The Reddit Premium Free Throw Cam in the second half is brought to you by Jolt Cola. Jolt Cola, feel the buzz.
So we've had one of the free throw cams was C2, is that correct?
Yes,
and now,
half the carbonation, half of everything that's good about Coke.
and then this one is Jolt.
Yes, but I'm more of a Diet Pepsi and Fresca drinker myself.
Yes, we know the long history of Fresca as your premium soft drink.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a Fresca with you at the moment here in the booth?
I do not even have any in my apartment. A severe oversight when shopping the last few weeks.
Oof, you're going to have to get on that, right?
Well, when I can step outside, I certainly will. But not many of us are going outside these days.
No,
and it's not the most important thing in the world.
That depends. Guess it just depends on your priorities. Harding short on the 3. West Virginia trying to cut into an 8-point deficit. Matthews, who did not start the game, but he has begun the second half on the floor. To Shibwe after a couple of pump fakes. Right back to Matthews, and he cans the triple.
Who would have thought that maybe the hero for West Virginia today would be Emmett Matthews Jr.?
He's at 6 points for the game. That is his season average. Usually plays 21 minutes per game as Worthington puts it in back the other way. West Virginia! What a slam, Culver!
Wow. Holy cow.
Making a statement right there. Didn't look as nice, but Worthington with the same result.
Yeah, but Culver living out kids' dreams. Full high-definition 4K poster coming his way.
That's one to hang in your bedroom when your career's all said and done. Shibwe inside. Five-point edge for the Cougars with the ball. Hawes. Transition back around the perimeter it goes. Sellius just inside the arc. And he drew the contact on Culver. Exactly what he was attempting to do as Culver picks up his 3rd. That's a really smart drive that time right there for BYU.
The Reddit Virtual Tournament is brought to you by Ultimate Electronics. Bigger, better, and more ultimate than ever.
Substitution on the court.
What kind of stuff are we finding at Ultimate Electronics?
TVs, cell phones, rotary phones, speakers, iPods.
Can I,
I'm sure you can get a dishwasher or two.
Can I cop a boombox, potentially?
I'm sure you could. You know, I mean, it is ultimate, so you may have to pay ultimate prices.
I'd be willing to if I could find a brand new boombox.
Hey, I just bought a rotary telephone for $30 a couple years ago, so I'm sure it's out there.
Route cutting into the deficit right now for West Virginia.
Great little pick and roll. Worthington not unable to slide over in time. The big man goes up with it.
McBride to Route. 5-point deficit. BYU, a 5 seed in this tournament, and not surprising at all with the type of season they had, going 24-8 on the year. On senior day, they knocked off number 2 Gonzaga, which is certainly something that TJ Hawes and company are never going to forget that night, and Hawes is up to 15.
Of course, now BYU doing a really good job of just maintaining the lead at 7. You know, for the last about 2 minutes, it's been 5 or 7.
Yep, just trading possessions with West Virginia there. Routs got back-to-back buckets for WVU.
Hey, I'm sure that Mark Pope would gladly take that.
Celius!
Biggest lead of the game for the Cougars. Big shot Zach, putting it up, dropping it down.
Last 3 wins for BYU have been by an average of 10 points. They have not had to sweat it out late. The only one really against Vermont. And then beat Stephen F. Austin by 3. That was actually a close game when they avoided that 12-5 upset in the first round. And Mike, since the Lumberjacks weren't able to take care of business, it's really been BYU rolling since then.
Yeah, they steamrolled a Vermont team that upset Louisville at the Horn. And then, of course, they slayed the 2 Giants.
And I don't care what the Cougars do against West Virginia or if they make it to the national championship game. You beat Kansas and Kentucky in back-to-back games. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, this will be a really proud, happy fan base, regardless of what happens here in San Antonio this weekend.
Yeah, there should be plenty of celebrating. Maybe some coffee if they're feeling crazy.
Hey, now.
Not quite
Hold on.
supposed to do that either. 3 ball in the air, that one short as well as Worthington rips it down. A chance to add even more. Dalton Nixon.
How does TJ Hawes do that? He just lines it up from the heavens, just rolls the ball into the sky, and then Nixon is just there. Splayed out, slams it down. How do you set that up?
It's like divine intervention. Route gets it to go. I'm telling you, this BYU team is so much fun to watch. It's been a pleasure to see them in this run in the NCAA tournament. Lead is 9. Celius. Just a bit too much that time, Mike.
Shibwe only with 2 rebounds. Been very quiet on the glass.
And a turnover for the Mountaineers. Nixon draws his man in the air. How about that block by Matthews on Harding? Matthews again. Strong move. Just a bit short that time, though. To the Cougars on the run. Celius up ahead. And nice sportsmanship right there by McBride.
Yeah, that was a real hard foul.
Clean, though, I would say.
Clean, yes. Hard, yes.
Nothing wrong with that. We mentioned how good Celius is from the free throw line. Almost 80% on the season, and now it could be an 11-point lead for the Cougars, who just continue to opening things up little by little.
Not expecting a guy like Celius to miss that free throw.
And doing all of this with Yoli Childs on the bench. He didn't even play 3 minutes in the first half because of foul trouble.
Do they really need him?
That's the thing. The answer is clearly no up to this point. Matthews. Hawes now in the face of McBride. Shibwe to a long 2. Nixon's got the rebound and Hawes on the run. To a spinning Harding. Oh! Shibwe!
There's beauty in that violence. Oscar Tshiebwe, 8-point basketball game.
Types of slams that we have seen thrown down in this game. Some of the best of the entire tournament. Celius after the tip to himself as 19.
West Virginia can have all the posters they want, but you're still down double figures.
3-point shooting as advertised right now for the Cougars. Tshiebwe lost it into the hands of Hawes. Probably the worst live ball turnover you can have. Celius again, just inside the arc.
21 points for the senior from Bountiful, Utah. And I'm not saying that the route is on, but the Cougars doing everything they have to do here to make sure that this game is pretty quiet down the stretch.
It is no doubt about it. Danger time right now for West Virginia. Luckily, they're going to have some easy opportunities right here for Tshiebwe. He's a 71% free throw shooter.
It's breakfast all day at Morgan's High Street Diner. Make sure to stop by at 8:30 eggs or pancake o'clock at any hour of the day, and this diner will have you covered. Morgan's High Street Diner, a Morgantown gem.
Yeah. Right there. Everything you just said. Give it to me.
Pancakes, French toast, waffles. What are you taking?
I am going pancakes. And probably blueberry pancakes at that. What about you?
I'd be chocolate chip pancakes.
Oh, okay. But pancakes as well.
Absolutely pancakes.
We're in the-
Pancakes and then French toast. Waffles. Waffles pretty much aren't on my list.
Right. We're in the same family there. 11 left here in the second. And the high-low to McBride.
It's funny, McBride is the one diving in, the 6'2 freshman guard, and who's standing 10 feet away from the basket? 6'11 Logan Rout. Something has to change with the spacing for West Virginia.
Wide open look, Nixon too much. Rout, one away from his 10th rebound of the game, would give him a double-double. The Mountaineers are just not a team built to play from down a big deficit, especially in this type of environment, because they don't have the three-point shooting right there.
Yeah, they don't have the shooting, and BYU isn't missing.
Well, and to West Virginia's detriment as well, Mike, they're not exactly playing the stoutest defense beyond the arc, which is a huge shock considering everybody knows how good BYU is as a three-point shooting team.
And also, they've had a week to prepare. It's not like this is the national final where you've only had a day.
It's a good point. So Rout gets past everyone. Back to a single-digit game here in San Antonio. Again, the winner takes on either Gonzaga or Seton Hall, whoever comes out of our second national semifinal. Celius with the foul. Haley going to the line for one more.
Here come the Mountaineers. Through the Appalachians, they're storming back at the Cougars. A bucket here makes it a 6-point game.
Haley is already in double figures. No. Tshiebwe, yes.
Game on, boys and girls.
All right, at what point here do you put Yoli Childs back in?
I say next whistle.
I mean, he's been on the bench again since the 17-minute mark of the first half. He has those 2 early fouls, but obviously that's all he's got. He's not in foul trouble anymore. I think you have to put him back in. He's a member of the first team
Yoli
All-West Coast Conference team.
Yoli Childs is fresher than bread that was baked this morning. Get him back in there and get him involved in the game. You need him now.
BYU has certainly gone cold. And cut into a 5-point deficit here with Jordan McCabe, the sophomore out of Wisconsin, former Mr. Basketball in that state. Long two. Not even close.
No, not a good shot.
Especially with the momentum the way it is, and back the other way, that forces Shibwe to pick up his third. So really a bad possession on both ends.
I thought that foul may have gone against McCabe, but it's the third on Shibwe.
Well, McCabe was acting like he was going to take the charge, and then he just backed away from it.
Yeah? No substitutions coming in.
So Mark Pope right now just going to ride with the 5 out on the floor. Could be a 7-point lead with a make here from Toulson. He's been quiet as well, just 8 points on the game. But thankfully, Celius has 21.
And Hawes has had a big game as well. Holy cow.
Woo! Worthington. Still plenty of time right now for the Mountaineers. But they keep taking these long jumpers. They might have taken 5 or 6 with their foot on the 3-point line.
Don't get me started on that.
Bad foul that time on McCabe, and Toulson shooting the J, going back to the free throw line.
Let's see what happens here with Toulson if substitutions are made after this first free throw.
So nothing right there. Mike, do you make any substitutions on the West Virginia front?
I would actually sit Shibwe for a minute for route. Give Shibwe a few minutes, let him sit with 3 fouls, get him ready for the stretch run. And if I'm BYU, put Childs back in.
Well, I think we've probably established that at this point. I would hope so. We've talked about it enough. I don't understand why not, but that's why I'm not Mark Pope. Badly needed for West Virginia.
Good teams create their own luck.
McBride up to 7. Once again, the lead for BYU 5. 7.5 to go here in our first Final Four game of the evening. To Hawes. Not this time. Culver, the 6'10 big man at the free throw line, got Hawes in his face. Toulson there as well to an open Haley. Off front iron and back to BYU it goes. He threw it off a Shibwe, but it still stays with BYU.
No kickball call either.
Worthington backing down McBride. How do you miss that one? Well, luckily, puts in the second effort.
And how did Haley miss the rebound? He just sailed by the hoop.
Alex Perlman, Mike Abelson with you here in San Antonio. What a game it has been in our first Final Four of the night. 78-71 BYU leads. They've already made their first Final Four and now looking to reset the mark to the national championship. Toulson turnaround.
Coming up after this one, don't forget, second game of our doubleheader. 1 seed Gonzaga, 3 seed Seton Hall. That'll be a good one. That'll be a real good one.
Can't wait. McBride. See, he'll be good for 1 or 2 of those a game, but you just can't depend on anyone for West Virginia outside the arc on any kind of consistent basis. Do the Mountaineers have 1 run left in them as McCabe reaches in to pick up his third? And finally, we are going to see Childs come in with just less than 6 minutes remaining in the ball game. The leading scorer and rebounder for BYU has played 3 minutes so far. Has not scored. The tip, good.
Right as you say it, Yoli Childs tips that one up and in, pushes the lead back to 9. Things going right for the Cougars as they lock up in man-to-man defense.
Into the corner for Haley. I mean, you can't be more wide open, and Haley couldn't get it to go. 9-point advantage for BYU, chance to add. Childs setting the screen for Harding. He goes over the corner, but no pass comes. Now it's Childs drawing his man in the air to Haas for 3, and he buries it!
What a stroke. What a pretty shot TJ Hawes has. 11-point ball game.
Up to 17 on the game. Huge one for the Cougars' chances. Just business as usual for BYU. They shot 42% this year from 3. That was the best mark in the country as a team. It's continued. Matthews can't answer. Harding. $11-point deficit for Matthews at West Virginia. Nifty work there by McCabe, but doesn't help him advance to the goal. And off of the cut, buried by Haley. He has been just about everything for the Mountaineers along with Shibwe.
Substitution in the court.
Speak of the devil, Shibwe checks back in, along with McBride and Taz Sherman getting his first action for West Virginia here in crunch time.
Interesting to bring the junior college transfer in his junior season, an All-American at Collin College in McKinney, Texas. For the stretch run, the Mountaineers look to get to the national championship game. Trying for their first. Is that 3 off the mark? Their first since 1959, when the Mountaineers lost to Cal. Even though Jerry West put up 28 points, he was named the tournament MVP, but not enough to get him an adding. That will certainly help, as Haley has really been all the Mountaineers have had from beyond the arc, and Shibwe could give him 2 more at the charity stripe. Down 6.
I mean, this would be massive. Turn this around into a 5-point possession. Everything was going so well for the Cougars. All they had to do was just keep their heads screwed on straight and bring it home.
Still the Mountaineers not even close to out of the woods.
Substitution in the court.
Shibwe
Substitution in the court.
now up to 15 points on the game. Averaging almost 20 per game in the tournament, along with 10 rebounds and 5 steals.
I'll say, once I get the ball back and I'm BYU, oh goodness gracious.
Haley!
Defensive foul. That's his 3rd personal foul.
All right.
Team foul.
2 more coming as Nixon picks up the contact, his 3rd, team's 4th.
I'm just going to be quiet when talking about BYU for a while.
Certainly can't predict sports, my friend.
Substitution in the court.
Sherman in, McCabe out. Haley about to reach the 20-point plateau, which he does. And there's that McCabe for Sherman substitution all over again. Just the other way around. In a 3-point ball game with 3:40 to go. Nixon makes him pay after breaking the press.
Substitution in the court.
Why not? One more time. Sherman for McCabe.
Cougars in position, but still 3.5 minutes left. Look at this crowd here in the Alamo Dome. Nixon picks up the foul, as Culver can't convert the dunk, but he is going to the line.
Shooting 2.
Fourth on Dalton Nixon. That may change how the Cougars play on the inside down these last 3.5 minutes.
BYU not a team that brings a lot of height into the game. Nixon usually their 5-man, but he's only at 6'7". Team that loves to spread you out, hit the three. They've done that so far. Is that going to be enough? Put back Haley, no. Hawes on the move. They can take some time off if they want to, up by 4.
I would take every single second if I could. Take the full 35. Take the air out of this one as much as you can.
Toulson with the pump fake and a wide open lay-in. Where's the help?
Someone has to come down and play that help side defense. It's Jake Toulson. What do you think he's going to do?
Back to BYU. It goes up 6. Under 3 minutes left now. Celia spins. Can't score. Toulson second effort. Yes, and a foul.
Substitution on the court.
And just like that, BYU with a chance to get 5 in a row, and that may be enough to wind this one out. You see the Cougar on the end line there, imploring the crowd on. This just might do it for the Cougars, but the Mountaineers suddenly hitting their shots from deep.
So Toulson completes the old-fashioned three-point play. McCabe checks back in for West Virginia. Suddenly finds itself down at 9. Could have made it a one-possession game just about a minute ago. And now it is an implosion for the team from Morgantown. That would have just about sealed it, but Celius off. Got to get it in the hands of the leading scorer, Haley. 20 points on the game. Nothing coming off the ball. Now it's in the hands of Sheboy, working on the much smaller Hawes to a cutting Culver. And Childs picks up the foul.
They have to hit their shots. It's been such a bugaboo for them this whole game.
Need to make free throws as well. Culver just 52% on the year, but that's an enormous one. Still 1 to come. That would make it still a 3-possession game, but 7 points. Sheboy makes it a 3-point possession instead. Six-point game now. West Virginia needs to stop in the worst way. Under 2 minutes left. Childs, open Hawes.
That just might do it. Sherman overcommits on Childs, leaves Hawes open. 8 points, 106 seconds left. I don't know if there's enough time here for West Virginia.
Celius with 21. Hawes with 19 for BYU, looking to lead the Cougars to their first ever national championship game appearance. 90 seconds to go. Sheboy loves that pump fake. Wouldn't draw his man in the air, but he does go to the free throw line, shooting 2.
And he gets Nixon disqualified with his 5th.
So that's going to cause Colby Lee to come in. A little bit more height. Now they're 6'9" for 6'7" for BYU.
Substitution on the court.
Sheboy nearing the 20-point mark. And this could make it a 2-possession game. It's like West Virginia, Mike, is just hanging around enough to stay in this one, but not close to enough to have a great shot yet.
They have to find a way to turn BYU over, force them into mistakes, because they can't just let 20, 30 seconds run off the clock.
And you can't take off the full court press because this is just what you do. And there it is. There's the turnover. Shibwe, inside it goes. No, on the layup by Sherman. Would have made it a 4-point game. Instead, it's Childs now to the strike. And that might have been the turning point.
They got the turnover. You know, they make that bucket, it's down to 4. And yet, if he makes both of these, it's 8.
Oh, substitution on the court.
One more now for Childs. He is one of the worst free throw shooters for BYU, 54% on the year. And he's one of 2.
Substitution on the court. Substitution on the court.
7-point game, 1:16 to go. How about BYU once again at the 90-point mark? And 96 in the win over 3-seed Kentucky. Taking a lot of time off the clock, but it pays off with a Haley 3.
They needed a triple. Now it's down to 4. Now you need another turnover and a conversion.
So we are at the same point we were just about 20 seconds ago. Easily the press broken by BYU. Almost got the steal after the deflection. 20-second game clock to shot clock difference here. BYU ball up 4. Childs. Toulson back to Hawes. Now 15 to shoot. Getting deep into the shot clock, and it's out of bounds. Last touched West Virginia. 11 to shoot. 30.7 to go in regulation, and a 4-point game still. So they give it to Seljaas, who's buried plenty from beyond the arc. Now just 3 to shoot. There's Seljaas for the dagger!
Ball game, ladies and gentlemen. BYU going to its first ever national championship game.
Wow, what a shot, Seljaas. Got it all the way down to 2 seconds left in the shot clock, and BYU makes him pay. McBride will be too little too late. Foul comes from Shibwe, but a chance for BYU to add on to already a 5-point advantage. What a remarkable response by the Cougars once West Virginia cut into that lead.
Yeah, you know, BYU always had an answer. No run was too strong for them. The better team won this game. And boy, it's gonna be a lot of happy people in Provo.
One more free throw now to come for Hawes.
Substitution on the court.
21 on the ball game. 97 to 90 BYU. Last chance for West Virginia, blocked, and it's a party in Provo for the first time in school history. BYU is into the national championship game.
No one better than Zach Seljaas. 50% from the field, 5 of 7 from 3. 3 boards, 3 steals. They're going to be a real tough out on Monday night.
Leading into a potential most valuable player for the Final Four. We will see how the national championship game shapes out. But Seljaas and BYU, one of the last 2 teams left standing. The opponent will be decided in just a few minutes. We will see you then for Gonzaga and Seton Hall. Thanks so much for joining us here in San Antonio. With Mike Abelson, I'm Alex Perlman saying so long, and we'll see you in just a few minutes for our second game of the night here in the Reddit Virtual Tournament.